By air, land, and sea, Russia has launched a devastating attack on Ukraine, a European democracy of 44 million people, and its forces are on the outskirts of the capital, Kyiv. For months, President Vladimir Putin denied he would invade his neighbor, but then he tore up a peace deal, sending forces across borders in Ukraine's north, east, and south. As the number of dead climbs, he stands accused of shattering peace in Europe. What happens next could jeopardize the continent's entire security structure. Why have Russian troops attacked? Russian troops are closing in on Ukraine's capital, days after Russia's leader ordered a full-scale invasion from the north, east, and south. In a pre-dawn TV address on 24 February, he declared Russia could not feel safe, develop, and exist because of what he claimed was a constant threat from modern Ukraine. Airports and military headquarters were hit first, then tanks, and troops rolled into Ukraine from Russia, Russian-annexed Crimea, and ally Belarus. Many of President Putin's arguments were false or irrational. He claimed his goal was to protect people subjected to bullying and genocide, and aim for the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. There has been no genocide in Ukraine. It is a vibrant democracy, led by a president who is Jewish. How could I be a Nazi? Said Volodymyr Zelensky, who likened Russia's onslaught to Nazi Germany's invasion in World War II. Ukraine's chief rabbi and the Auschwitz Memorial have also rejected Mr. Putin's slur. How much Ukraine does Russia control? President Putin has frequently accused Ukraine of being taken over by extremists, ever since its pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych, was ousted in 2014 after months of protests against his rule. Russia then retaliated by seizing the southern region of Crimea and triggering a rebellion in the east, backing separatists who have fought Ukrainian forces in a war that has claimed 14,000 lives. Late in 2021, Russia began deploying big numbers of troops close to Ukraine's borders, while repeatedly denying it was going to attack. Then Mr. Putin scrapped a 2015 peace deal for the east and recognized areas under rebel control as independent. Russia has long resisted Ukraine's move towards the European Union and the West's defensive military alliance, Nato. Announcing Russia's invasion, he accused Nato of threatening our historic future as a nation. Ukraine and Russia history. 8,000 years ago, Russia and Ukraine shared a legacy that both countries have complicated or shared. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, Ukraine was the breadbasket of Europe in the last century, one of the most populous and powerful republics in the former USSR, and a significant agricultural import. While Russia has watched over its neighbor to the west closely in the past, Ukrainians have experienced periods of protest and government corruption during their independence. Despite Ukraine's ambitions to align itself better with Western countries, including its public interest in joining Nato, which was formed at least in part to deter Soviet expansion, the Council notes that Russia has responded with aggression. After Ukrainians ousted an anti-Russian president in 2014, tensions ballooned. In a move widely condemned by the international community, Russia annexed the Crimea region of Ukraine under the dubious claim that it was protecting ethnic Russians and Russian-speaking Ukrainians. A separatist movement in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of eastern Ukraine that led to armed conflict was backed by Russia at the same time. Both sides declared independence during a protracted standoff. According to the 15 years since, there have been at least 14,000 deaths between the two countries in the Council. How far will Russia go? It is now clear that Russia is seeking to overthrow Ukraine's democratically elected government. Its aim is that Ukraine be freed from oppression and cleansed of the Nazis. President Zelensky said, He had been warned the enemy has designated me as target number 1. My family is target number 2. This false narrative of a Ukraine seized by fascists in 2014 has been spun regularly on Kremlin-controlled TV. Mr. Putin has spoken of bringing to court those who committed numerous bloody crimes against civilians. What Russia's plans are for Ukraine are unknown, but it faces stiff resistance from a deeply hostile population. In January, the UK accused Moscow of plotting to install a pro-Moscow puppet to lead Ukraine's government, a claim rejected at the time by Russia as nonsense. One unconfirmed intelligence report suggested Russia aimed to split the country in two. In the days before the invasion, when up to 200,000 troops were near Ukraine's borders, Russia's public focus was purely on the eastern areas of Luhansk and Donetsk. By recognizing the separatist areas controlled by Russian proxies as independent, Mr. Putin was telling the world they were no longer part of Ukraine. Then he revealed that he supported their claims to far more Ukrainian territory. The self-styled People's Republics cover little more than a third of the whole of Ukraine's Luhansk and Donetsk regions, but the rebels covered the rest, too. How dangerous is this invasion for Europe? These are terrifying times for the people of Ukraine and horrifying for the rest of the continent, witnessing a major power invading a European neighbor for the first time since World War II. Hundreds have died already in what Germany has dubbed Putin's war, both civilians and soldiers. And for Europe's leaders, this invasion has brought some of the darkest hours since the 1940s. France's Emmanuel Macron has spoken of a turning point in Europe's history, while Germany's Olaf Scholz has warned that Putin wants a Russian empire to take over Europe according to his worldview. Recalling the Cold War days of the Soviet Union, Volodymyr Zelensky spoke of Ukraine's bid to avoid a new Iron Curtain closing Russia off from the civilized world. For the families of both armed forces, there will be anxious days ahead. Ukrainians have already suffered a grueling 8-year war with Russian proxies. The military has called up all reservists aged 18 to 60 years old. Top US military official Mark Milley said the scale of Russian forces would mean a horrific scenario, with conflict in dense urban areas. This is not a war that Russia's population was prepared for, either, as the invasion was rubber-stamped by a largely unrepresentative upper house of parliament. The invasion has knock-on effects for many other countries bordering both Russia and Ukraine. 5 countries are seeing a big influx of refugees, while the UN Children's Agency says its projected scenario is for up to 5 million refugees. Poland, Moldova, Romania, Slovakia and Hungary are all braced for arrivals. What can the West do? NATO's defensive alliance has made clear there are no plans to send combat troops to Ukraine itself. Instead, they have offered advisors, weapons and field hospitals. However, it has deployed several thousand troops in the Baltic states and Poland, and for the first time is activating part of its much larger rapid reaction force. NATO will not say where, but some could go to Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary and Slovakia. At the same time, the West is targeting Russia's economy, financial institutions and individuals. The EU, US, UK, Japan and Canada are cutting off key Russian banks from the international SWIFT payment network, which allows the smooth and rapid transfer of money across borders. Much of Europe has shut off its airspace to Russian airlines. The US, EU and UK are imposing personal sanctions on President Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Germany has halted approval on Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, a major investment by both Russia and European companies. The EU has already targeted 351 Russian MPs and aims to limit Russian access to finance, technology, and defense. The UK says all major Russian banks will have their assets frozen, with 100 individuals and entities targeted. Russia's national airline Aeroflot will also be banned from landing in the UK. The US is targeting 10 of Russia's biggest financial institutions. The Russian city of St. Petersburg will no longer be able to host this year's Champions League final, and the Russian Grand Prix will not take place in Sochi.